Hello. Hello.
Hello, hello, and good morning. What's going on, everyone? Craig, welcome. Chris, Pete, what's happening? Michael, Leland, always here. I feel like you're the first one here every time, but I'm not sure because you always beat me, but I appreciate you being here, brother. Matthew as well. How are we doing on Trajectory Tuesday?
Good morning.
Good morning, Pete. You are on it, brother. Definitely want to make sure we connect, debrief from this weekend. Tons of thoughts on the world of Sean, on the world of Courtney and James, and what I'm up to there. So let's please make sure we connect by Wednesday or Thursday, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Craig, happy to have you here. Glad to see everything worked out. You got the Zoom recordings, is that correct?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah, no problem, brother. Just wanted to make sure I acknowledge Craig. Craig has been accelerating his education, looking to make sure that he looks through the Zoom calls and is in communication with me constantly. So I just want to honor and acknowledge Craig and above and beyond. That's what it looks like. Listening is one thing, communicating and playing the game is another. So Craig, you are an example of what it looks like for acceleration. So thank you. All right, Michael, Leland, Matthew, anything that you all are present to, any wins, anything exciting while we wait for Mr. Callaghy? Does anyone have any questions?
I have a win that I wanted to share.
Yeah, please. Go ahead, Pete.
I wanted to thank Ben Fox, if he's on the phone, for not merging one, not merging two, but merging 3 ecosystems in a single day.
Wow.
And practically before lunchtime. And so Ben Fox is an ecosystem merging maniac, and I need to give him a shout out.
That's incredible, brother. And he's not on the call yet, but we'll make sure to acknowledge him when he is. If you can share for the group, welcome, Tamara. So happy to have you on these calls now. Pete, if you could share what, in your opinion, or actually better said, in your experience, what does that look like? You know, what did Ben do? What are you experiencing? If you can share with the group what Ben did and what you're experiencing, so we can get a little specific on what that looks like.
Sure. So Ben is out there in the world meeting folks, and he is helping plan an event between the Unblinded Callagy group and the American Federation for the Blind. And he effortlessly walked me into the meeting to help support the marketing efforts of this event and to bring my skill set to light in front of the American Federation for the Blind. But he also had with him his godson, who Ben is well aware that I need additional staffing at my office, and he actually had his godson with him, who's an amazing soul in and of himself, and he so that gentleman is going to be able to support some of my efforts at the office for a few hours a week. And then lastly, he had a gentleman from the the Platinum Group. And so all three of us were in this meeting with the American Federation for the Blind, and Ben just killed it by bringing all these people together to one table.
I love it. So a big shout out to Ben. Just want to welcome Nate, and thank you for sharing, Pete. There's a lot there. I want to welcome Sergio and Darcy. Thank you for being here. Michael, we already acknowledged. Sergio, what's up, brother? It was nice to see you. Martha, Tia, thank you for your message. It was very humbling, nice, and warm to listen to this morning. So I love you. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you a little later. Kelly, welcome as well. Nate, everyone else on the phone. Hello and good morning.
Hey, Fernando, it's Kirk Adams, and I'm on a train, so
yes.
I'm going to mute.
Thank you, Kirk. I appreciate you letting us know.
Thanks.
Good morning, this is Ben Fox.
Ben Fox, you missed a very beautiful acknowledgement by our friend and ecosystem partner, Pete. I'm not confused on your greatness. I just want you to know that he shared some very beautiful words, and you're an ecosystem merging maniac was the language that was used. And you're connecting your godson and the American Foundation for the Blind and some platinum partners to the world of Pete. So my brother, you are an absolute example of what we're supposed to do. And I'm so blessed and honored to call you my friend above all else.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much, Pete. Thank you, Fernando. What we're building here in this group, this ecosystem, is remarkable. It seems like things are starting to fall into place in a serendipitous way. And I don't know what to say about that other than I'm very excited, and I'm grateful for this formula, and I'm grateful for this group of people. I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Game on. So, Mr. Callagy, do you happen to be on the call? Okay. So as we continue to wait, no big deal. Would anyone else like to share some wins? I know we have some people that were at the weekend of acceleration this weekend. Is anyone else present to anything after they've had over 24 hours to sit down, integrate all that information? Is there anyone else that'd like to share what they experienced?
Yeah, and Fernando, I am here, but I will certainly, Sean, happy Trajectory Tuesday, but I'm, please, yeah, anybody wants to jump in and answer?
Beautiful.
All right, super cool. Good morning, Fernando, and everybody out there. It is Trajectory Tuesday. What is present for me is immense gratitude. It was an awesome and amazing day yesterday. We, and I'm not sure if Mona's on or not, but I am immensely grateful for Mona creating a tremendous day at Salesforce yesterday. What she's doing there was so impressive, and I had heard incredible things, obviously, and know the story of Salesforce. It being, essentially an idea birthed in, or at least accelerated through Tony Robbins' room, as Mark Benioff approached Tony Robbins and said, I'm going to build a $100 million company. And now Salesforce is I guess 8, 9, 10, 11-figure company in the deca billions. And it was incredible to see. It was also humbling to see what is done for employees. And, I thought it was such a big deal. And it is a big deal. I'm not minimizing my life. But bringing, 100 people to, or close to it, to the Cayman Islands and, having incredible Christmas parties. But there's Michelin-rated chefs and dining rooms and meditation rooms and game rooms and unbelievable conference and boardrooms. And Mona walks around as the princess / queen of the space and environment, the culture there. Everybody knows her, and it's just like it's her place and space and world. And it was an honor and privilege to be in what is her work home, as well as to see the incredible people that showed up at the session that we had, which was a mini version of what we did over the weekend. And it was great and super neat to see the how it began, as it always begins. It's like, what is this? And there's some trepidation, there's some knowingness, and to watch that unfold. That said, I don't know, Mona, are you out there by any chance?
I am. Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, Mona. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
All right. And so thank you. I appreciate you immensely. And there's, phenomenal, incredible, I think, things that happened, that can and will happen. And would you want to just share, for a moment, how yesterday was for you, and, sort of what you're up to right now. And I guess that's an additional position that you were rewarded with at Salesforce in creating relationships and, kind of what you're doing, what you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sean. Good morning, everybody. So yesterday was amazing. I wanted to have a intimate session with Sean, with some of Salesforce leaders and someone representing Citi, which is the account that I'm responsible for at Salesforce, and also some of my Platt friends and Ben Fox, and it was just some of my favorite people that I wanted to put in the room. And we did some type of dry run because my intention was to bring together some of the best people to have their input. The event that we're looking to put together at Salesforce is a partnership between the Women's Network of Citi and Salesforce Women's Network, and also Salesforce, anybody in general. But basically, I felt like the relationship between me and my customer in my work environment was very transactional. It always had to do with product and selling, and it had to do with basically it was a lot about, money. And we wanted to bring more value and make sure that the customer knew that we were partners, that we were not only there to sell them software, basically, that we really did care about them. And in a conversation that was just over drinks one night with my client, they were talking about the fact that they had no budget allocated to the Women's Network, and that they would love to do stuff, but they felt they never really had any money to do anything, didn't have access to good speakers, or it basically always looked like everyone getting together in the cafeteria and having a few people on high chairs in the front and just talking about different topics. So then I thought about Sean and brought the idea to them, talked to the Women's Network, talked to the Citi team, and everyone just was super excited. So yesterday was awesome. They didn't really know what to expect. They started the session with like a little bit of nervousness in the room. It was very quiet. And within like 15 minutes, it was like, and what's awesome is that Sean totally acknowledged that. He asked one of the girls, like, where do you think the energy is in a room? And it was really cool. It kind of broke the ice a little bit. And within like 15 minutes, the energy totally shifted. And I was telling Sean, the way I can gauge if a room is engaged is if they're not looking at their phone. And nobody had their phone. Everybody had their phone in their bag or upside down on the table, and everyone was just like mouth open, totally focused on Sean, and just really, really engaged. It was awesome. Super, super amazing session, and great feedback from the team. And we're looking forward to bring it at a higher scale. We're looking to have about 100 to 150 people between Thanksgiving and Christmas at Salesforce in our big room, the auditorium, that I always get that word wrong. Yeah, we're super, super excited about that. And after that great event yesterday, Sean invited us to dinner. I was expecting a really small, intimate dinner, walked into a private room of a beautiful steakhouse in Manhattan, and there was 20 20 people there, Sean?
Yeah, about that. And
Yeah.
and I think, yeah, how did that go? Would you say, Mona?
Oh my God. The first word that comes is kind of funny because everyone was so surprised. They thought they were just going to be having steak and talking to the person beside them. But Sean was like, okay, so we're going to go around the room and everyone's going to tell us in 30 seconds, like, why you're really great. And people were not prepared. And it was one of the first things they said, I'm not prepared for this. But it was really awesome how Sean just was able to bring people from a space of uncomfort, definitely, but a space that's making them grow. And I think it was beautiful. It was uncomfortable and beautiful at the same time. And it was seeing people grow and being a better version of themselves, definitely, and thinking about how they can be even better than that. And just not be better. They're already better than that, but just letting it shine, basically.
Yeah, that's it, right? And some of those folks might be on this morning, and so I'm very grateful for them being here. And, from chiropractors to orthopedic surgeons to folks that sell in the medical industry. And it was awesome. And, Mona, if I could acknowledge you in one additional way, because I think often people don't see what they don't see. So as you're building, and it could be even the people around you, as you're building this women's network in partnership, like this ecosystem merger between Citibank and Salesforce, what is wildly present for me is the extent to which, and I understand that some of the folks at both Salesforce and Citibank that will be part of this women's network are internal facing people that probably, and I don't know how the structures operate fully, but they may not have a ton of external contacts. But my hallucination is a very significant percentage of the people who will be participating, and for the Citibank side and the Salesforce side, I'm guessing that at least half would have some contact with clients on the Citibank side and the Salesforce side. Is that a fair guess or not a fair guess?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So what happens when those relationships get built and those ecosystem mergers not only happen amongst the larger ecosystem is Mary and Susie's ecosystems merge, and there's the ability to create dynamics for the clients they're dealing with. So, some of the Salesforce people in that room will be working with giant companies. Some of the Salesforce people in the Women's Network, I'm presuming, work with small companies and mid-sized companies. Is that true, Mona, or not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then some of the Citibank people will be doing the same. So what does it look like if Mary and Susie, instead of, Mona's world is just incredible, massive account relationship with Citibank. But let's say Mary's relationship bank is, 40 smaller companies, and Susie's bank is, 40 smaller accounts for Citibank. And now all of a sudden there's cross-pollination going. That's, Susie's helping Mary meet new smaller accounts that she has a great relationship with, and Susie's helping Mary do the same. The value that Mona is creating for Citibank and for Salesforce, as well as for each of the individual people, Mary and Susie, is extraordinary. Now, it could mean nothing if Mary and Susie don't think that way, right? And they're not co-creating. But this ecosystem, it's sort of, if you think about it, and this is, now we're into the Trajectory Tuesday, and Mona, just please stay with me for one more minute, just like live. If we don't think about it this way, it doesn't happen. And this is not a value judgment about when the Earth, we'll call the Earth an ecosystem, when the Earth was simply where it was, let's say, 5,000 years ago. Like, there was an Earth, and it's 5,000 years ago, and there was stuff going on. What wasn't going on 5,000 years ago were airplanes flying, were people surfing, were people having cell phones and being on this call with Salesforce, and the the economy, if you would, 5,000 years ago, was like go hunt something on your own, or maybe with a very small tribe of people, and somebody else is going to go pick fruit, and you're going to go eat it, right? And I'm not sure when the wheel came into play. I'm not sure when fire started happening, but that's what it looked like at some point. It was an ecosystem that had a value that was extraordinarily low in terms of production. It was individualized, and it was survival, right? It didn't look like the Capitol Grill in Rockefeller Center. It didn't look like Bryant Park. It didn't look like Michelin-rated chefs. Like, these things didn't exist. Today, the world is extraordinarily different, and there's just, like, we live in the greatest time of abundance economically, even though the media would try to show us differently, falsely, but we live in the greatest time of abundance in the history of the world. And if you're not quite sure what I'm saying, I will be direct. The analogy means that Mona is birthing an ecosystem. Like, that's what she's creating, in combining the women's network of Citibank with the women's network of Salesforce. But what that ultimately looks like, if that ecosystem flourishes similarly to the Earth, just stay with me in this Trajectory Tuesday analogy, because this is like drop the mic, okay? If it looks like the trajectory rise of the Earth, then the value add becomes insane, right? It becomes exponential, obviously. But watch this. If you look at all of the countries around the Earth, they grew at very different rates in very different ways. Like, they had wars. They didn't have technological advancement. Like, certain continents are very different than other continents. Certain countries are very different than other countries. Like, empires, rose and fell. So what I'm sharing is that every ecosystem you create, the ecosystem Mona is creating, can rise to different, like, dramatically different levels of value, or not, at dramatically different rates of acceleration. But the potential value that's being created in that Mona ecosystem, and its ability to accelerate the growth of Citibank, the growth of Salesforce, the growth of the income of Mary, Susie, Mona, like June, like all the different women in that room, not only is she creating, is extraordinary. So not only is Mona creating an environment where all of those people could be happier, could be more mindful, can have more magic in their life, Mona is also creating the opportunity for more money in less time for the folks at Citibank and the folks at Salesforce, because, as we said, edification, like the opening of doors, frictionlessness, is a massive accelerant. So everybody there that connects on both sides has the ability and opportunity to open additional doors at a much more rapid and more accelerated rate on the one hand. On the other hand, the ability to not do that is completely present. And if you look at the third world, like, and I'm not making judgments about the quality of humans, I'm talking about ecosystem value add. If you look at the third world, it's an ecosystem. It didn't flourish nearly at the rate of the United States, Great Britain, some other nations. And if we get into, people were killed and robbed, and that's not what I'm talking about. You're right. Like, what I'm talking about is after whatever happened and the United States became the United States, and by the way, that's not dismissively saying that it's not an interesting ethical conversation. We're not having the ethical conversation. We're having the conversation of the country was born, and then the greatest wealth in the history of the world, or at least in the top 10 highest wealth, was created during a unique period in the history of the United States with people like the Rockefellers and Carnegies. Not, again, assessing their morality. I'm not saying they're bad or good. I'm simply assessing the fact that the United States was created, massive ecosystem acceleration occurred, and nations that existed, or spaces that existed and predated the United States dramatically did not, as the United States did. No value assessment of morality, but yes, value assessment of the creation of more money in less time. The United States is the greatest space of more money in less time than any space that has ever been created in the history of the world. But forget the United States. Look at Grand Cayman and the Cayman Islands. Grand Cayman and the Cayman Islands is one ecosystem amongst a bunch of ecosystems that exist in the Caribbean. And for some reason, like the United States, Grand Cayman exists and Haiti exists. And the rise of their economics are dramatically different. Haiti is dangerous. People are far more poor than if you look at the Cayman Islands. You go, well, that's because of banking. That's because of tourism. Yeah, there's a reason, but those were nurtured and flourished. And the Cayman Islands said, what are our ecosystem assets? And maybe nobody said it specifically, but I bet you somebody did. And the banking industry rose, tourism rose, it was safe. They're like, oh my goodness, we have these incredible stingrays that just form. And a guy named Captain Marvin said, what would it look like if instead of cleaning the fish that I catch in the North Sound, as I come in through the North Wall, like what if when I'm sitting in that beautiful sandbar and all of a sudden I'm throwing this fish overboard and the stingrays are congregating just naturally? What would it look like if I brought tortoise here? And now, on a busy day, right, at an awkward time, there could be 1,000 tourists in the water in the North Sound when 40 or 50 years ago, there was no one. The economics that are being created by 1,000 tourists being in the North Sound, all day, every day, I'm hallucinating if it's 1,000, let's say $30 a person or $50 a person on average to bring them there. So 10,000, it might look like $50,000 an hour in value. So in a day, you're looking at, let's say, $500,000 in economic value being created a day, not to mention plane flights and boats. So if you look at restaurants, you're looking on a daily basis, let's say Stingray City contributing, and I think it will be a fair economic model, $1 million a day in value to the Cayman Islands. Just Stingray City, just birthed by Captain Marvin. That's what Mona's doing. Now, it could end up like Haiti, and nothing can happen, but it could end up like that. And at Salesforce and Citibank, with the value that already exists for Salesforce and Citibank, it could look like, I don't know, 10 million a day in value that can be created out of that. Or it could look like $1 million a day in value. It could look like $500,000 a day. But it certainly could be a lot more than 1 + 1 = 2. And so when you think about Trajectory Tuesday and what you're birthing, see your ecosystem wherever it is. See it like you're Captain Marvin sitting in the Cayman Islands and you're sitting on a boat in the North Sound. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, something can be created here. And this uneducated man that would go on to have, you can look him up on the internet in his story, go on to have, 18 children, something like that. Captain Marvin's, it's not Salesforce. It's probably not even Caligula Law. But every day, Captain Marvin, now he passed away in his late 90s, has, I think, something like a dozen boats, and they take people fishing, and they take people to to Stingray City, and they are the standard for taking people each day, every day. And it's an ecosystem that's created massive value for his family, massive value for the Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands, unlike Haiti, is known for having Stingray City. In the scuba diving world, at one time, Stingray City was known as the most exciting 15-foot dive in the world. And that's what one guy created, sitting on a boat, saying, I think I could expand. I think it could be exponential. And I think I could do more than fish and throw the fish parts overboard and enjoy watching stingrays eat them. And that happened. So what is it for you? That's like Mona's up to, right? But being real, it could not be that, because it could just end up like a bunch of people sitting talking. But it could be a bunch of people sitting talking, making themselves feel better, and then creating massive value expansion. So it could end like Haiti. It could end like the Congo, right? Or it could become the United States. It could become Grand Cayman. And that's what Trajectory Tuesday is about. It's about thinking of how you can expand through merging of ecosystems, people coming together to create leverage. And Salesforce overall is an unbelievable example of acceleration. And then the value Mona is adding, right? And by the way, sometimes, and I'm not assessing this, judging it, saying it is or isn't happening at all, but sometimes people might not see what they don't see. So it could be easy to have it be undervalued. Like when some of the things that I'm doing in the world and the money I'm spending and time I'm spending, some people on my team are saying like, Sean, what are you doing? You bill or can bill clients at $800 an hour, probably $1,000 an hour. And I do occasionally, but I don't do it much anymore. So just your time, Sean, if you bill just 15, let's say you even build 1,000 hours a year, you're creating $800,000 just in revenue for the firm by you billing 20 hours a week. And instead, you're running around doing all these things. And what I'm saying is, I am very clear on what I'm doing. For me to bill $800 an hour, even $1,000 an hour, I think I'm losing money because the ability for me to speak, sell, create relationship expansion is so far beyond those numbers. It's silly. And I'm not assessing in this morning how you get there. Like I'm not assessing how you get there, like how you pay your bills, how you get there tomorrow. We have those conversations on different days. And we'll have a training coming up soon on that question. What I am saying is your time is worth far more than $1,000 an hour eventually, far more. And there's a massive ability to create that type of value. Adam, I'm not sure if he's on today or not, but Adam went to a company, and Adam was there this weekend. It's a Momentum, the incredible solar company, and there was nothing. There were folding chairs. There was a warehouse, and there was $3 million in annualized revenue, and there was no people. And he built a world. He built a world which became like 8 people and some desks that he rented. And then a little under 4 years later, it became from 3 million to 700 million in annualized revenue and growing. And there's like a shot at it being $1 billion, for this year. I'm sure it'll be $1 billion next year. And those 8 people originally hired became 400 people. Like that's what's possible for every single one of us. And so Mona, I'm incredibly grateful for yesterday, because not only do I know the value potential, the Captain Marvin-like, Salesforce-like, Momentum-like, Calgi Law-like seed, right, that was given to me yesterday. Like you gave me the soil to plant a seed. And what I know that can happen from just yesterday is the creation of 9 figures of value for everybody involved and more. Like that began. Now it could die, right? But I don't think Mona or I have any intention of letting it die. And it could look like a whole bunch of different things over time, right? But because we didn't, I don't think anybody could have predicted when the United States was created that like there'd be an office called Salesforce doing something on something called the computer. So sometimes it happens in different ways. I'm sure Adam in his wildest dreams, maybe his dreams were wild, wasn't seeing 400 people in under 4 years and Inc. magazine and all those things. But those things happen. So it doesn't always work precisely the way we believe or we're anticipating. But massive and incredible things can happen in all these situations. So Mona, one more time, thank you so much for yesterday. And I don't know if you're seeing any of those things the way I just shared, but I'm really confident like that's what's happening and that's what you're creating. So thank you.
Thanks, Sean, and a shout out to Tia for the initial idea. She's the one that kind of planted the seed about this, and Fernando to really just push and make it happen, even though I thought it would be too small of a group, but still said, why don't we just do it anyway? So shout out to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tia. Thank you, Fernando, and super
Yes.
thank you, to Mona. Fernando, real quickly, and we'll wrap shortly.
Yep.
But did that land like sort of the Big Bang Theory hitting Trajectory Tuesday?
It did land like the Big Bang Theory. Thank you for clarifying and verifying and using the language you do. I am clear on the magnitude of every single one of these opportunities that we have right in front of us.
Yeah. So you know what I think, Fernando?
Yes.
I think much more than the Big Bang Theory, because, you know, it took much longer. I'm a much bigger fan of, like, the world was created in 7 days or 6 and then a day of rest. So yeah, I think I'm up for 6 days instead of thousands of years. Like, I think that's what's happening and what's possible.
Agreed.
Yeah. So anything else anybody would like to ask or share? And if anybody's like, I'm not quite sure how the analogy lands. The analogy, I would hope it is, but if it's not, cool. The analogy is you're birthing an ecosystem, and the value can be massive and incredible, or it could be something, or it could be nothing. And your influence mastery skill sets, your process mastery and self-mastery will dictate. Haiti's influence, process, and self-mastery was different than the United States. And like, it just was. After it began. Forget about the ethics of how it was initially created. And forget about why people said, like, people could have been traumatized. People could have been slaves. People could have had all kinds of horrible things happen. I'm not asking how we got to the starting point. From there, like, people could have really significant self-mastery challenges because they could have been abused and traumatized. I'm not judging people. I'm not judging. Like, my dad was an alcoholic. I have caretaking codependency challenges. I'm blind. That creates a heightened level of fear and anxiety for me at one stage in meeting new people. I'm not judging anything. I'm not comparing trauma or problems. What I am saying is wherever baseline is, then from there we have self-mastery, influence mastery, and process mastery. And that will take us or will not take us to somewhere or anywhere. And we can go nowhere or everywhere. And it will be rooted in our self-mastery, our influence mastery, and our process mastery. Like, that's what's happening, period. And that's what these huddles are about. They're about reminding us of our power, reminding us of the possibility without judgment or blame. It's choice. You can have more money in less time with more magic or not. And I don't judge it in any way. Like, when we're, like, ending last night, Mona and her beautiful heart and soul knows there's 2 16-year-old women that sleep on the street in New York. And I can't even imagine what those young ladies have been through in their life. And it made me want to cry. In fact, I felt quite emotional. I didn't cry. My eyes didn't fill up, but I felt unbelievable sorrow and emotion. And Mona and I, jumped out of the car, and she was bringing, the food over. Nicole was hanging, with us as well. It was an incredible night. And I want to thank Nicole for all the great work that she did yesterday as well. Just phenomenal. Ran the PowerPoint, like, just seamlessly and brilliantly, and I am immensely grateful. And so there we are, and, like, there's these 2 young women sleeping on the street. And I can't even begin to imagine what happened, right? But they have choices, and we'll have choices every day from here, and no blame. If their life has been destroyed because of the trauma that's occurred, and they never encounter the right information, never learn, and just can't because their nervous systems are so shattered, I completely validate it and understand. But there's still the possibility. Like, Oprah was abused horribly by family members. Horrible things have happened to people that become, people of great pain and act out and cries for help and, rob and steal and kill and, do things that are unthinkable. And then people also are able, through their remarkable self-mastery, like Oprah, create unbelievable benefit for people. Tony Robbins was abused as a child, horribly. And he's channeled that. I'm not making anybody perfect, right? But I'm saying it was simply the formula. His self-mastery and Oprah's self-mastery as examples were uniquely masterful. And those folks that don't overcome, it's just not as uniquely masterful, although totally understanding. Like, it was completely understanding. My grandfather struggled and had a stroke and never made more than $14,000. And I think he's one of the most remarkable, loving humans ever. But, his process, influence, and self-mastery in the space of life was quite remarkable. In the space of economics, was not. And I love him, and he's one of my heroes. So there's no judgment of the person. This is just creating a conditioned way of thinking for all of us so that we don't blend it into, as some of our conversations from yesterday can trip into, well, somebody's a good person, they're a good person. Yeah, of course. Everybody is an amazing, innocent soul, worthy of complete love, period. Deserving, worthy, period. We're talking about the human technology that takes us to our dreams. It's a human technology. It's called the Calgary Results Formula. It is influence mastery, process mastery, and self-mastery, and it exists, just period. Like I named it. I found the lost city. I found the technology. I named it. That's all I did, right? And that's it. So any other thoughts, comments, or questions on this Trajectory Tuesday? I am grateful, I am present, and I'm going to increase the value of my ecosystem 100-fold today. Like that's what I'm up to. What are you up to? And if you're up to taking a nap, contemplating life, and doing nothing, that's amazing also. Have a great day. Thanks.
Blessings. Thank you, Mona. Thank you, everyone. See you on the group text, and have a blessed Trajectory Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.